All right, guys, welcome back from Easter break. Hopefully, you guys had a good 4-day weekend and had a good Easter. So, we're going to talk about what causes the season. So, I know you guys had a Google form last week with the Night Science Guy video, but after looking at some of the forms, some of us are still a little confused of why exactly we have seasons. So, a lot of us said we have seasons because of the tilt, which is correct, and then you said because of the distance from the sun. And I'm going to show you why right now, why the distance from the sun is incorrect. So if you look over here on the left side of the picture, we have summer, right? Because June, July, that's our summertime. You can see that we're about 152 million kilometers away from the sun at the running time. And then over here on the right side is wintertime, where it's January and December. And you can see here we're about 147 million kilometers away, which means that we're actually 5 million kilometers closer in the wintertime than we are in the summertime. If that was the case, you would think when you get closer, something gets hotter, but that's not the case right now. So we are going to talk about why exactly we have seasons. So we talked about how the tilt of the Earth, but also as the Earth revolves around the sun, the tilt of the Earth causes the changing of the seasons. So it's not just the tilt of the Earth; it's also that the Earth revolves around the sun. If the Earth was staying at one spot and it was tilted, we would get the same weather year round, no matter what it was, because the angle of the sun wouldn't change. We're going to talk about that. But first, let's talk about the northern southern hemisphere. So hopefully we all know at this point that we live in the northern hemisphere, which is above the equator, which is 0 degrees latitude. And then if you live below 0 degrees latitude, you're in the southern hemisphere. So the northern hemisphere experiences summer, while the southern hemisphere experiences winter. And we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about why right now. So the two hemispheres are always in opposite seasons. So you can see up top here, since we're at 23.5 degrees, that's the angle which it tilts, the Earth is in summer, or sorry, the northern hemisphere is in summer, and the southern hemisphere is in winter. Now, that is because the amount of direct sunlight. So if you can imagine these arrows as though you're seeing sunlight traveling through space, you can see the northern hemisphere is receiving more of those arrows than the southern hemisphere. So therefore, the northern hemisphere is warmer than the southern hemisphere right now. Then we have, so while the Earth is in this position, the northern hemisphere is getting much more direct sunlight than the southern hemisphere, which is why we have summer. Not only is it more direct sunlight, but the sun also shines more hours of the day. Because of our tilt, you notice that we have longer days in the summertime. Therefore, there's longer amounts of sun to make it warmer. Near the equator, though, they usually always experience about 12 hours of sunlight and 12 hours of nighttime. They don't really vary too much from this. As you get more north or more south, depending on the equator, you'll get more or less daylight. So you can see here that the Arctic up here never experiences nighttime. They will experience in the summertime, the hemisphere of summer, 24 hours of straight daylight for about 6 months. And then down here, you can see that the southern hemisphere is also the South Pole in the southern hemisphere is right now currently receiving zero sunlight for about 6 months. The Arctic Circle is still very cold, even though it's receiving 24 hours of sunlight. It's just because it's very indirect light. Although the sun never sets in the summer in the Arctic, the sun never warms the atmosphere because of its low on the horizon. So, the solstices. So during the December solstice, Earth has traveled more than 100 million miles in its revolution around the sun. So now we're on the other side of the sun. The Earth is still tilted at 23.5, as always. But however, now that the southern hemisphere is receiving more sunlight, the southern hemisphere is now in summer. If you live in the southern hemisphere, the December solstice is December 20th, 23rd, is the beginning of summer. So if you think about it, they're opposite of us. So when we are wanting a white Christmas, they want a white sandy beach Christmas. And we can see here that now the direct sunlight is mainly on the bottom, while the northern hemisphere is not receiving that directive sunlight anymore. From the June solstice to the December solstice, the amount of sunlight you receive gets shorter and shorter every day. The farther north you live, the tilt causes more southern latitude to experience daylight for a longer period of time. Just like when it was on the opposite side, where the northern hemisphere experiences more sunlight, now the southern hemisphere is experiencing more sunlight. important to remember that half the Earth is facing the sun is always experiencing daytime. So no matter what time of day, what time of year, half the Earth is always going to be lit. Um, so let's look at the one on the left here. So ignore the seasons currently. Let's just look at daytime versus nighttime. And you can see in this Earth here, that is daytime on the right side and nighttime on the left side. And we get those night days by the Earth rotating on its axis. And as we go over here to the bottom one, you can see the back side is always nighttime, as the front side is always going to be daytime because it's facing the sun. Over here, the left side is always going to have daytime, while the right side is going to have nighttime. And up here, the side that's facing it currently is going to be daytime, while the side behind it is going to be nighttime. Just remember that all the seasons are opposite. So when the northern hemisphere is in summer, the southern hemisphere is in winter. When the northern hemisphere is in fall, the southern hemisphere is going to be in spring, and vice versa for the other two locations. So let's talk about spring and autumn. So during the spring and autumn equinox, the Earth tilt is that it's not facing towards the sun or away from the sun. So you're going to get the most, they fall right between summer and winter temperatures for that reason. And if you live on the equator, there's still very little change. So remember, if you live on the equator, there's going to be very little change throughout the year. So let's talk about equinoxes. Equinoxes, you think of it as equal. The day of the year where the hours of day and night are the equal length. So that's when you're going to have, since there's 24 hours in a day, you're going to have 12 hours of nighttime and 12 hours of daytime. That happens twice a year. Now, the summer solstice and winter solstice depends on which hemisphere you live in. If you're in the hemisphere that's tilted towards the sun on the solstice, that is your first day of summer. So if you think about it, the northern hemisphere, the summer solstice between June 20th and 22nd, and the southern hemisphere, their summer solstice is actually in December 20th to 23rd. And the summer solstice, it's the day of the year where there's the most daylight. So during the summer solstice, you're going to see the sun at the highest point in the sky. It's going to be as far high above you as it can be. When it reaches that highest point, that's exactly the summer solstice. Now, let's talk about the winter solstice. So, the hemisphere that is tilted away from the sun, on the day of the solstice, experiences first day of winter. For us in the northern hemisphere, it's around December 20th to 23rd. In the southern hemisphere, it's in the middle of June 20th to 22nd. So again, when we want snow in December, they're getting snow in June. So the winter solstice, it's the day of the year with the least amount of hours of daylight. So it's going to be the shortest day of the year. Just like the summer solstice was in the highest point, the winter solstice is going to be the lowest point in the sky, which means the angle of the direct sunlight is very, very low. Okay, now let's talk about the northern hemisphere seasons. We go from spring to summer, summer to fall, fall to winter, winter to spring. Remember, the southern hemisphere is opposite. So when we are in spring, they are in fall. When we are in summer, they are in winter. Okay? All right, guys. Here's a short little picture to show you that how the seasons are opposite. After you're done watching the screencast, make sure you answer the questions right below. If you have any questions, go back in the video, pause it, and search for those answers. All right. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email me. So the office hours if you guys want to talk in person. But have a good day, guys.